Welcome to another dipped nail tutorial. My name is Tia from Dipped and Polish. If you're interested in seeing how I do my dip nails, keep watching. Now I'm going to be using the ASP dip system today. I'm going to be using steps 1, 2, and 3 and the color South Beach from ASP. I got these products from Sally's. I'm also going to be using a small buffer, a large buffer, and a fingernail file that is a 100 to 80 grit. So that means that it's going to be a coarse to medium coarse dual-sided fingernail file. You'll also need a small brush for this tutorial. Now off camera I did a dry manicure, and here I'm applying step 1. Step 1 is the nail prep. This is going to dehydrate your nail and take off any excess oil that you may have. It's important that you do this step. Now once you've done that step to both hands, I like to tap my product to release any air pockets, but then I also like to take the back of a brush and just stir up the product to release any clumps that may be in the product. And if you watched my last video, you'll notice that I stated that I like to use the rim of the powder as a nail stabilizer when I'm applying my liquid. Now right here I'm going to be applying step 2, and if you're using ASP, step 2, they've combined step 2 and step 4 into one. So I'm applying the base to my nail, and I'm only applying that midway, avoiding the sides, because I don't want to build up that product on the sides. I'm really only focusing on the center area. I focused on that area because I like to do two things. One, I like to strengthen the nail at the midpoint so that it prevents a lot of bending. And then two, I like to build up my apex so that's that nice curve that you have in your nails. And so by doing this step, this will definitely give you the strength, but also the height that you may be looking for. Additionally, you'll notice I don't put the product, the base coat, on the sides, and I'm not taking it all the way back. I'm really applying a very thin layer. And I do this 2 times on both hands just so that I can have, again, the strength and the height that I'm looking for. So I will continue to strengthen and build up the apex area, and I will come back when it's time to move on to the full application. Oh, real quick, right here I'm just pointing out how you can sort of see the curvature there, and that's because I'm building it up. So if you like that type of shape to your nails, then this is definitely a step that I wouldn't skip. Now let's move on to the second layer. As I stated, I like to apply 2 layers to the midsection of my nail before I move on to the full application. And again, this is to strengthen the nail and also to heighten the nail. The reason that I don't apply the product to the sides is because I don't want bulky chiclet nails. So you can see right there, no product on my sides. The product is really solely focused on the center. You see that I'm creating that nice ledge that will give me that curvature that I'm looking for later on in the tutorial. So again, I'll let you keep watching this clip and I'll be back. Now that you've completed your midsection dip to the entire nail, noticing that you're creating that curvature, we can move on to the full application. Now, it's important that when you're doing your full application that you start off with a thin layer of your base coat. Again, you did the mid dip because you want to build up your apex and also strengthen the center part of your nail, and that sort of prevents bending. It just reinforces your center section. So what I'm going to do here is just apply a thin layer of the base coat to the entire nail. And then I'm going to insert my nail into the powder, my finger into the powder at an angle. And I like to wiggle my finger around. Now, I've been using this ASP product for a couple of my sort of tutorials. And one of the things that I've noticed is that when you use this product, at least on my finger, I have to wiggle my finger around for the product to really adhere. So if you're using this particular brand and you're having an issue with the product, sort of adhering to your nail, try wiggling the finger around to see if that works. I apply a very thin layer of base coat to the entire finger, focusing really on the center section, making sure that I'm capping and applying the product around my free edge, the tip of my nail, and making sure that I'm not overextending the product and placing the base coat onto my cuticle. The reason that you want to cap off the free edge is that if you're experiencing lifting or separation from the tip, which I know a lot of people have, that's because you haven't really created a nice seal between your nail and the product. And so it's important that you cap it at the tip of the nail in order for it to stay on and to avoid any lifting. I like to take my time going around the cuticle, and I like to almost like dab the product around my cuticle so that I'm not getting it on my skin. And again, I will wiggle my finger around because this is what works best for me when I'm doing my dip application at home. Sometimes I will take the brush and press in any extra product, especially if I don't think that it adhered to certain areas, and so you just saw me doing that. And so, yeah, I think that this is one of the, just with this product, I think that this is sort of what you want to do. You don't want to have product on the sides. You don't want that product build up on your skin because now you have to foul your skin, and you don't want to have the product on or over the cuticle because you won't create that seal at the base, so at the back end. So as your nail starts to grow out, what will happen is you'll have the lifting from the base, the back, and then you'll also have the lifting from the tip if you don't cap off the tip of your nail. And again, capping off just basically means that you're taking the base coat, brushing against the free edge, and then dipping your nail into the product, which basically creates that seal. And it's, locking everything in. So I'm going to let you finish watching this clip and I'll be back. Now I wanted to show you a sort of example of a don't nail. Here I'm using my middle finger as like something that you should try to avoid. When you put too much base on your finger, you're going to do one of two things. One, you're going to create a very thick and lumpy, bumpy sort of nail application, as well as you're going to spread that base coat around the cuticle, and it's going to just basically spread outward and hit around your skin and attach to the side walls, and that's something that you don't want to do. So clearly you can see here where the product has shifted. It's literally sitting on my cuticle. It's not adhering. That little sort of lift up that you see on the left side of my nail is basically creating like this little wedge, and it's not flush to my nail. but I'm going to continue to add more product in an attempt to overcorrect the situation. And when I say overcorrect, what I'm meaning is that in some cases, if you find that you're in a situation where you've applied too much product, it's lumpy, it's bumpy, you're going to have to either do one of two things. Start from scratch and basically soak that nail off in some acetone, and or you will have to build the product up enough to where as though you have enough layers to file off to get to the point of satisfaction with the nail, if that makes sense. So it's almost like you have to counter correct what you've already done, but in order to do that, you have to have enough product because you're going to have to foul and buff and foul and buff in order to get that smoothness there without losing the color payoff and fouling off or damaging your nail. So right here, I just added a little bit more base, and I'm sticking my finger back into the powder so that I can sort of build up that back area around the cuticle so that I can correct the mistake that I did by applying too much product. So that's why it's important to really apply a thin layer and move the product around if need be with your brush. You don't always have to go back in and re-dip. But again, inserting my finger at an angle, wiggling it around a little bit, and pulling it out will help adhere the product. One more thing, if you are doing your nails underneath a fan, a ceiling fan, which I was, that is going to play a major part in how quick the base coat will set. And in some cases, your base coat will set before you actually put your finger into the product. So just be mindful of that. If you have a ceiling fan on or you're sitting next to an AC unit and you have direct air blowing on you, that's going to affect the way that your product cures and adheres to your nail because it may be setting before you can actually get it into the powder. So that was just a side note that I wanted to point out. So I'll let you all continue to watch this clip and I'll be back. Now that you're almost finished with your hand, it's important that you focus on making sure that you're applying thin layers. You can always build up your dip powder, but you can't take away. Well, you can if you foul it off, but that's a lot of fouling. Again, one of the things that I like to do is I like to apply thin layers. I think that is the best thing possible when you're doing your nails at home. I think that it's also important to make sure that when you're applying thin layers, that you just take your time. You're not in a rush, you're at home, you're doing this yourself. If you are under direct air, like it's a ceiling fan or AC unit, you might want to sort of move away or turn the fan or the AC unit off, central air unit off, so that your product is not setting before you're ready to dip into the product. But again, if you follow these sort of simple steps, you will have salon-like nails. I've recorded a second part to this particular video so that I can show you how to correct through filing bulky chiclet nails. So if you're interested in seeing how I do that, go ahead and click the video, part 2 of this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.